I heard this story recently by Rabbi Yoel Gold, and there was, one time there was a family that was going up to the mountains in the summer and visiting day, and there was the daughter, and then there was a father, and then there was a grandfather. The daughter was in camp, and the father and the grandfather came to visit. Now, after they did all the
Guys, this video was sent in the group chat to the Rabbi Nachum.
So he goes and he goes to this after they do the visiting day, and they walk past by another elderly gentleman, and this, her grandfather sees this elderly gentleman. Their eyes lock. They do this like little nod, and they keep on walking. So the son who was there goes to his father and says, "Hey, Dad, listen, who is that guy?" He's like, I know all your friends. I know all your people. I've never seen him before. And he's like, that is my best friend from before the war. He was a Holocaust survivor. He says, that was my best friend from before the war. He's like, your best friend before the war, and all you're going to do is just nod? Why don't you give him a hug? Why don't you say what's going on? Catch up. And he says, don't worry about it. Just let it go. And he kept on persisting. The son says, no, Dad, tell me, please. It's very odd. What happened? So he says, the father says before the war, before the Nazis came into the town, he says he was able to procure visas for his wife and his child and his in-laws, and and he hid in a certain place, visas to get out of Germany, and he hid it in a certain place, and he goes over to his friend. One time his friend says, "Hey, listen, so did you prepare anything? What are you going to do? I hear the Nazis are coming in any day." So he says, "Yeah, actually, I got visas for my whole family, and I hid it." And he told this person, his best friend, where he hid his visas for his wife, his kid, and his in-laws. And he's like, "Wow, you're so lucky." He says, "I didn't do anything." And he says, whatever, we can try, whatever it is. And the next day, he goes, the father says, I go look for the visas, and where I hid them, and they're gone. And he says, only one person knows where those visas were, and that was my best friend. So I went over to my best friend to see, maybe you saw the visas. And he was gone, and his whole family was gone. And he says, I lost everything in the war. I lost my wife, I lost my kid, I lost my in-laws, I lost everything over there. And now the son goes to him, he says, now I have another question for you. Why didn't you go and hit him? What, just a nod? So he answered, such an amazing thing. He says, it was a different time. He says, people acted differently, and we can't judge. This guy killed, in some sort of way, his family, and he was able to go pass by it. There is nobody in this room, or watching, or listening, that can say, I hate somebody for a real reason. There's no reason that you could hate somebody. All reasons are nonsense. And even if, let's say, that you go and you have a big reason, you have a real reason. Do you think that somebody could do something to you that wasn't decreed by heaven? That God didn't say, I want this to happen to you? Is it even possible for someone to steal money from you if God didn't say that your money is supposed to get stolen from you? No. Can somebody hurt you emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually? It doesn't matter. Can they hurt you at all if God didn't decree it? And the answer is absolutely not. They cannot hurt you unless it was decreed. So if it was decreed, why are you killing the messenger? Why are you hating the messenger? It was decreed from God. Someone's screaming at you. Your boss is screaming at you. It's not your boss. God sent you that person screaming at you. Your spouse is screaming at you. It's not your spouse that's screaming at you. God is sending you a message.